Welcome to Slated for Tomorrow, the podcast where we bring in inspiring individuals who use their purpose, passion, and superpowers to shape the future. Today, I'm your host, Sandy Sharma, and joining us is Sunny Singh.
And I'm also your host, James Archeri. Today, as Sandy mentioned, we're with our special guest, Sunny, who happens to be an entrepreneur, a philanthropist with an extensive background in technology and innovation. Over the years, he's founded incredible companies like Edifecs and RoundGlass, both of which put human health and wellness at the core of what they do. We are very excited to have you on our show today, and thanks for coming in to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here, and I've known Sandy for a while, so have looked at his journey and tracked his journey, but delighted to be here and talking to both of you.
So one of the things we like to do when we get started is just dive right into like your background. And like, how did you get started, and how was your passion? How has your passion evolved into the wellness work that you're doing today?
So, if I give you like a very quick overview, I spent half my life in India, half in the US. So I was about, I think, 23 years old when I came here.
Do you mind me asking which part of India for the audience?
I was born in the state of Punjab, but I grew up in Delhi.
Okay.
Pretty much most of my life, and I came here to do my higher education, my master's, and then worked a couple of jobs. Realized I'm an ultimate corporate misfit. Every job I've done, they were ready to fire me after 1 year. And I said, I might not be the smartest guy in the room, but I'm definitely not the dumbest guy in the room either. What's going on with my life? And I then realized that I'm cut out to be an entrepreneur. And at the age of 32, which was in 96, I became an entrepreneur. And my first venture, which is Edifecs, was in health tech. And as a result of which, I understood human health and our healthcare system fairly well. We had no choice but to. And as a result of which, I realized that our healthcare system is not a system of care, it's a business of care. And that system will never work. So if you really look at the healthcare system, it really works really well for very small populations, like Singapore that has 5 million and change, and therefore you can have a very robust, and it's a rich country. If you look at it, generally speaking, we spend in our country north of $4 trillion a year on healthcare. And there's only a handful of countries in the world who have a GDP of more than 4 trillion. And do we get healthcare worth 4 trillion? But do you love calling your doctor? You go to the doctor I have no choice, let me call my doctor. Well, the truth is that you should be having lunch with your doctor once a month, and you should be paying for it. So notwithstanding all of that, I realized that the healthcare system was not truly a system of care. And so, okay, how do we really care for people? And that kind of pivoted me towards starting RoundGlass, which is a company in holistic well-being. And so that's how my journey evolved from a professional side. But on the personal side, when I was about 40 and change, and I was head in deep and all into and exercise and yoga and a number of other things. And so that small pivot in around 40, and then looking at the world and saying, how do we really care for people, and saying, what should be my purpose in life? I started RoundGlass. So that's kind of my journey.
So Sunny, your journey of personal, just trying to be healthier, how did that play out? Did you have good progress? Were you inspired by it? Did it work?
Professionally and personally, let me just kind of bifurcate that. Personally, yes, it did, but I didn't do enough, or I'm not doing enough. And it's almost like I've come with a model that hopefully by the end of this year, I'll implement what I call my 8-8-8 model, which is, I must get 8 hours of sleep a day. And I like to kind of bifurcate that between, 7.5 hours at night and half an hour in the afternoon. That's the most important element, that I must get good sound sleep. And then the next is I must get 8 hours of well-being squeezed into my life, which can be everything from spending time with your kids or your parents or your family. It can be doing yoga and eating mindfully, whatever those things are. I want to spend a good 8 hours a day on my well-being, and then 8 hours working. And you will realize that when you start, I'll give you a very small example. Every morning that I do yoga, my mind just works that much better that day. I'm alive. I'm a better decision maker. I'm full of energy. I think I have more passion in the day when I do my morning yoga. And the day I do not, it's like feel a bit sluggish, right? And so when you realize that when you're truly working for 8 hours, that's a lot of work you can get done. If you're fully present, fully focused, right? We believe that just spend hours and hours in working somewhere is more productive. It is actually not. And all through my career, I realized that if I slowed down, I would have done much better every time, without fail.
I remember learning in my early career too, at a young age, that they say like your cognitive abilities, fall after like 2 hours of nonstop mental usage, right? And so what I would try to do to like refresh my brain back at IBM in New York City, and because we were fortunate to have everyone like in the same building but different levels, every like hour I would then prioritize a 5-minute walk around the building or like around the floors and try to meet one new person. So it also had like a double-edged sword. It allowed me to re-engage with a human being completely unrelated to work and build my network out. And that actually really helped me to make some of my good friends today.
Now think about it, right? 99.9% plus of the people do not do what you did. And guess what? It helped you just get your blood flowing. It helped you meet people and therefore your social bonds.
Yeah.
It helped you cultivate a network. So basically the time you spend getting up and the 5-10 minutes worth a lot more than you just working an extra 5 minutes on the computer.
But the 8-8-8 balance, that's a very interesting way to monitor it on a daily basis, right? Like you're concerned about it and you're watching it. Now, I think there are people who are doing 8 hours on social media. Which bucket does that fall?
Yeah, it's, social media is a very interesting topic for me. The reason it's interesting is, can you live without it? If you take the vanity aspect out of it, if you take the addiction element out of it, can you live without it? It is a useful tool, mature to the verge of uselessness, right? Social media can be a very useful tool in getting a story out, but most of the stories out there is garbage. So when you're scrolling on social media, are you really getting intelligent? Are you getting entertained and intelligent? Are you becoming more aware? Do you know that information is worthwhile? Is it true? Is it relevant? Because just because social media is there, that means everybody can express an opinion. You might have an opinion, doesn't mean you're right. You might express a statement, doesn't mean that it's backed by evidence, because that's just your opinion. Now, some opinion might be backed by science, some might not. But if you just see all the talks and conversations happening, which one do you trust, right? And then the second part is, if you trust the source, how relevant is it in your life, and can you implement that in your life? What in awareness? There was a speaker I heard like maybe 100 episodes or something like that, and I then started scratching my head. I said, okay, I love listening to this person, but it's not moving the needle in my life, right? And here I've spent hundreds of hours listening to this person, and I realized that it was just entertainment. It was just nice to listen to, but it has not made any dent in my life.
So I think it's similar to what you were saying earlier, that if 99% of the people, and I don't know what the stats actually are just want to be entertained, or they just want some noise and something to do, then it's more of a time pass. It's not really something you're trying to get value out of, which is unfortunate. For people who are actually deliberate, will seek out something that is meaningful. So interestingly, I am not on social media at all. I use LinkedIn a little bit, that too also to connect with people related to work and just to follow up. I'm using it more as a business-related engagement. But I don't get sucked in because I find the noise to be so much.
When people use social media, it's almost like I'll ask them, do you use social media mindfully? That means, are you present when you're using it, right? Because if you're present, you will know if you like it or not, versus, oh, my mind is fried, okay. And
the thumb's just scrolling forever.
I mean, imagine our kids who are growing up to nothing but that kind of culture, and therefore they think that this is part like brushing your teeth in the morning, and therefore highly harmful because you're looking at a screen all the time. You're looking at your laptop, then you're looking at your other device and your other device, and you're not getting natural.
They have is in conflict, because if they want engagement, like you said, they'll promote the things that are controversial, they'll promote noise, they'll promote all of that. Whatever is engaging the audience, they'll keep doing that. That's the problem,
because they're incentivized to keep people on the platform.
Wait, that's it.
I like where you're going with that, because I'm a big advocate in the fact that conscious capitalism versus just capitalism for the sake of making the profit. It's like how you go about it should impact the world better. And, TikTok is hot right now, obviously, with the fact that there was that 2020 study out of Australia, I believe it was Fortune, that interviewed children in Australia and interviewed children in like Hong Kong and I think China and said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And a lot of the kids in Australia were like, I want to be an influencer. And that's because at the time, TikTok was just pushing content around that and like the pranks and all this other stuff. Whereas in China, they control what is shown, and it was all like educational to children under a certain age. They limit, it's only an hour a day max, and then they brick the phone for those apps. Obviously, we don't have that sense of control, which is awesome in the freedom standpoint in the US. But to your point, like, what are your thoughts on
how it can influence that, right? It just
people make good money on YouTube and all this good stuff. And I've thought about that. Okay, the current generation say, okay, I can go get a job, make 100,000, 150, 200,000, but I can be a YouTuber and make that money and a lot more. And you see how the world is shifting. Now, there's nothing wrong in any of these professional careers or moves, or, if you want to do this in your life. The question is, what do you accomplish on the other side for the person listening to you? Are you peddling garbage so that it's just filling up, it's a noise for them, it's just filling up the vacuum in their lives and making them more fragile, right? If COVID proved anything, it was the emperor has no clothes. We didn't know how to deal with life, right? And so my take is that social media becomes your new partner, your friend, your comfort zone, your ally. And social media will be as fickle a friend as you can find. If you think social media is your friend and you spend 2, 3, 4 hours with that social media, so to speak, suite, well, that's the most fickle-minded friend, because it's going to keep peddling you stuff and everybody wants to attract you in their direction, no matter how. So guess what happens? The line of ethics kind of gets blurred. Okay, hey, what's ethical in terms of me saying, hey, listen to me, versus I saying, hey, I'm going to make it so attractive for you to listen to me. I don't care what impact it has on you.
I'm just going to pull you in.
There's responsibility I think we have to take collectively as a society and demand.
I'd love to go a little deeper on this, because I think you said this a few minutes ago too. He lets everybody in. And I've seen you also, Sunny, to be a very generous, open-hearted, everybody's a friend and family. Tell me about that ethos.
For me, as I evolve my journey from being 40 and getting into what I used to call health, and then wellness, and then well-being, and then holistic well-being, I have come with some ingredients of holistic well-being, which for me, those ingredients coming together will solve can pretty much center you for good. And one of them is being authentic in terms of your relationships and communication, to be authentic and meaningful. So to have authentic communications, to have meaningful relationships, and to celebrate life. Those are 3 of the 7. But if you look at those 3, you want to celebrate life, you want to have the relationships that are meaningful, and you want to have conversations and communications that are authentic. Why would you not let people in? The question is that how much do you let them in?
Yeah, how close do you let them to your
right?
core?
So you start saying, okay, I get to know you, James. Okay, wonderful. I had a wonderful conversation. Let's grab coffee. I say, you know what? We're not jibing over here. So you kind of say, okay, this is as close as you're going to get to me. But why would you not want to know the guy who drives, an Uber driver who says, okay, I'm driving you around. Why don't you want to talk to that person, right? Why don't you want to say hi and get to know the barista who every morning you'll go pick up your coffee and say a little something more and saying, hey, I love the dress you're wearing. Or you know what, man, you're smiling a lot more today. What's up, right? And building that relationship with people that you come into your life. And guess what? It's like being so into your media and you being like a great Drake fan, and Drake just passes you by and it's like, oh, Drake, oh, he was there. I didn't know that, right? There is so many things that come in your life every time that if you really sat back and just entertain the people that come into your life, you would be so rich and social, right? And you just sit back and relax and let the people come into your life.
Did this, to Sandy's point though, did this ethos of authentic inclusiveness come from like a worldview from Punjab? Was it from your parents? Was this a nurture versus nature thing? Where did this come from?
It's a very interesting question, because my father said, Sunny, why are you doing all of this stuff? Right? My father's 92, he's very soulful and very saintly. I said, by the way, what these ideas and what you're doing, why are you doing all of this? Well, you don't have to. You create a company, you did well professionally. Why do you want to do all of this? And I said, I think I'm possessed. I'm a medium for something, or somebody getting something done through me. And I also always said that even in my first company, that the first company was just a way to prepare me to what I'm eventually supposed to do in life, which is what I'm doing today in the world of holistic well-being. So it's almost like life was preparing me to do what I'm doing now. And let's see how successful we get in transforming people's lives. But that's how the journey kind of took place.
I definitely want to talk a lot more about RoundGlass, but I'm going to rewind and take us into the Edifecs era, right? It was a long journey. And I think throughout the journey, your resilience, conviction was outstanding. But there were lots of executives, lots of outsiders, lots of them kind of naysayers and wanted you to pull the plug or exit early or do all kind of things. What kept you going? And then also, how did that impact the evolution of your relationships? Because that's also part of what happens through those kind of journeys.
Edifecs, I started in 96, my first company in health tech. And in 1999, we were pretty much on a downhill spiral. And we were, everything that could go wrong potentially did go wrong. And here we are, almost $2 million in tax debt, and payroll is delayed by 2 months. Landlord has not been paid. No vendors being paid. 9/11 happens, and the country comes to a halt. And so, it's in a way, when adversity strikes you, it actually defines you, who you are, because your inner, your who am I comes out. And what happens is that during those, and it took us about 5-6 plus years to get out of that hole. At that point, the choice was, do we declare bankruptcy? Easy way out. And I met a bankruptcy lawyer at that point, and I started bawling in front of her. I couldn't control myself because I didn't know how to deal with life, right? I was not a high-flying executive, and, I signed the company on my credit cards. I was a student of the industry, et cetera, et cetera. And so everything was being learned on the job. And I said, okay, should I shut the company down? Everybody's saying, friends, family, shut the company down, go work at Microsoft or someplace and make a living kind of deal. And so I was working out of a condo at that time. I went in the bathroom this is my second visit over there. First, when I started the company, I said, okay, if I start a company, if I lose a share of my bag and I'm working at McDonald's and my friends walk in from the front door and saying, you're going to order a burger from me, will I have a problem with that? And I said, no, McDonald's will give me a job. I'll have no problem serving my friends burgers. So what do we have to lose? If we lose a share of the bag, no worries. I can make ends meet.
So let's keep going.
Let's keep going. But the second time, so that's when I just started the company. The second time when we had this issue, I was again in the same bathroom, looking in the mirror, and this is like truly soul searching. I said, what do I do? Bankruptcy, shut the company down, or continue going on? And at that point, I came up with one thought of saying, if we have hope for one more day, if we can survive for one more day, let's continue. And we'll make the decision of shutting the company down or declaring bankruptcy tomorrow. And the one day led to a week, to a month, and to 5-6 years, we made everybody whole. We paid the tax debt.
I want to go into that. What did what did you define surviving one day mean? What did that mean?
That meant that we were very focused. That meant that we refocused on our core competency. We had a product that we first developed. We started focusing more on that product and selling more of that product while building another product on the side so we could innovate. That means communicating to our associates every day, what money's coming in, what's the state of the business, how are they doing. We had the best parties during those 2-3 years.
And you were fully transparent. Everybody knew what the situation was. There was no party line.
No, everybody
was authentic.
Everybody came together very, very well. We would celebrate really well, with our parties, etc. We were authentic. We built relations, and all of them except for one was still when I sold half the company, was still with the company. So they were lifers. And so in a way that when you go through such, and I'm sitting in bed looking at the ceiling and saying, why should I get up in the morning? IRS is calling, my associates are going to say when the next payroll is, landlord is calling, and there's nobody, nobody will even lend me $5,000, so to speak. And so we fought it one day at a time. We became, I think what really came out was who is Sunny, and therefore if Sunny is a leader of Edifecs, how does Edifecs get defined? And that was perseverance.
What advice would you give to Sunny if you were what you are today and you had a chance to go back, kind of like the whole the ghost of the past, right? And you could go back to that Sunny in that moment.
Would anything change?
What would you tell them? Would you say, hey, also focus on your health a little bit? Because sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's you make me think. One part is that I don't think I would go back and change anything, because the lessons I learned, I don't think anybody could have taught me that. You had to go through that storm, and which really seasons you. And then teaches you a lot of things. It defines you. It's almost like you had no choice but to look inwards and saying, what is my inner strength? Whether you call it superpower, my strength, my DNA, and what was, and a couple of things came out. Perseverance. So I was doggedly committed, worked hard, but secondly, I carried my people with me. I never left anybody behind. So whether it was over communication and keeping the group together, or when we came out of it, ensuring that they were well vested in the company, and when we sold the company, that all of them did really well. So I carried them. I was the last guy to eat. I'll give you a very, very interesting example. I was driving a Suzuki Esteem at that point, which I bought for $3,000, right? And this was like a manually opening the windows, and the radio didn't work, and the AC didn't work, etc. And my guy said, okay, when you got out of this mess in 2005, he said, Sunny, when are you going to buy a new car? I said, when you reach 25 million in revenues, I'll buy a new car. Okay, that shuts everybody else down. Every year working. We reach 25 million. Saying, Sunny, what car are you going to buy? I said, 50 million. If you reach 50 million, I'll buy a new car. And then reach 50 million. Everybody's thinking, what car Sunny's going to buy? And I said, 100 million promise, I'm going to buy a car. And the reason was that the car...
Because you kept putting the money back into the business.
I said, I'm going to eat last. End of story. I said, we have seen the worst of days, and to buy a nice car, yes, but I'm from home, I'm going to office and back, and maybe a couple other social engagements. What do I need a great car for? When the company has gone through such a bad phase, the last thing you want to tell your people, okay, we got some money, let's start splurging it. And I didn't feel like, didn't have the need to. And everybody saw that, and nobody bought expensive cars in the company.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny about that? That there's two awesome reminders that, because we're in Seattle, the Jeff Bezos interview, right? When they were it was like 2020, and they were interviewing them, and they were worth valued at $1 billion, and Jeff Bezos is still in his Honda Accord, with the window
and they
that
still had doors for tables.
Yes, I remember that interview. And I love that because, again, he believed more about the business and putting money into the business like you did. And my also favorite memory is Walt Disney, when they were, it was during the Great Depression, they were at the issue of making payroll, and Walt Disney sold his car. So, that way he could ensure everyone got paid, and then he didn't take a salary, and his brother, the CFO, didn't take a salary.
Yeah, no, that's happens a lot. So even in my first business, I sold my motorcycle to make payroll. Didn't even have a car, and I took the public transport in India, the DTC bus.
Yeah.
Okay, and then here in 2008, when the downturn happened, 10 of the top leaders did not take payroll whenever they could afford not to, and us two as business partners never took it, and we did whatever we could to just keep the people together. Otherwise, it's so easy, let me start cutting. Let me just keep feeding myself.
You could have kept firing people instead of...
and feed yourself. It's a good ethos there. I do want to go a little deeper into the Edifecs. It's an amazing story. Talk about 2 or 3 key inflection points.
Yeah.
You talked about a negative one, any positive ones. I'd love to hear what they were and what made it happen.
I consider the entire Edifecs experience as an experience money cannot buy. Because to go through imagine this, this is a kid who comes from India at the age of 23, where the air ticket was a loan from a bank. Here's a kid who comes to the US.
Wait, hold on. You got an airplane ticket.
But it was a loan from a bank because I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford an air ticket.
Wow. Okay.
My father had spent all his money in the kids' education, even though mine was not too expensive, given it's mostly government funded in India. But nonetheless, he was a sportsman, didn't have too much money, spent all of his retirement money. So when he retired, he didn't have a single dime in his bank, and he didn't have a house. He probably had a scooter at best, right? So that's him. So here's a kid who's come here, and I've come in a full scholarship, et cetera, and I started my company on my credit cards and whatnot. So every experience of starting the company, going through the throes of as bad as you can get, and then coming out of it. That experience it can be devastating for a lot of people. I could have been in debt for life, etc. But what it taught me in terms of defining me, centering me, making me confident, making me basically revealing the person I am, which I love, because saying, hey, if I could get through this fire,
I can do more.
It's like, life is fine. Bring it on. Life is fine, right? So inflection point wise, one was, and I'll look at, you have to look in the context of well-being. First check, $2,000, sold 10 seats of my product to my ex-manager, my last job. He said, put these 3 features, I buy 10, $2,000, and I went and had, dessert in Gilman Village in Issaquah. And there was a celebration of our first check, our first sale, right? So it was a mini celebration. hard work, right? It's like, I wish I did a lot of things.
That's when there weren't too many smartphones, I guess.
I wish I could. The inflection points, one will be saying, look, if I have one more day to live, let's fund the decision, let's work hard, and let's do all the things right. And we did we made very, very good decisions, and we had a team that really stuck together. So the whole idea of, if you have one more day to live, that was an inflection point. We pivoted towards healthcare during that time also. So that was a big pivot as going to new vertical, understanding it, etc. But all in all, I think the other inflection point was me forming an operating council in the company, where I said the leader of the company going to run the company. And so literally for the last 10 years, Edifecs was run by the operating council, with me spending half an hour. So another new model of empowering your people and saying, you make your decisions, and if you can't make a decision, you bubble it up to me. So almost like ultra kind of abstracted from the business, right? And so I think I would take Edifecs as a journey of great learning, and there were inflection points of how do I get started, to how do we get out of the mess we were in 2000, to becoming profitable and being up and up by 2005, and then in every recession we became more aggressive because we knew how to save money and be frugal and hire well, and commitment of people, longevity of people in the company was very, very high. Our attrition rate was like 2%.
Wow.
So I think it's the decisions you make all throughout, and when life professionally throws you a curveball, how do you react to it? I could have shut the company down, but we persevered, right? I could have said in the very beginning, oh, my credit cards, I'm running on my credit cards, and I can't get this business off the ground. But think about it today, that if you just get a business off the ground and your only source of money was 20 credit cards that you're using and tiny bit of consulting money, it'll be unthinkable, right?
Not possible. With the interest rates you pay on it, that itself will kill you.
They'll kill you, right? So I think it's almost like, and my take always has been that if you firmly believe in something, you must do it, because otherwise you'll regret it. And if you firmly believe in something, give it a shot. The earlier, the better. But be prepared to saying it's going to be a gruel. It's not going to be something. It's not cushy. It's not nice. Today, it's like, if I had to go restart Edifecs like I did, I don't think I can do it today. I'm that much spoiled, so to speak. So great perseverance, hard work, and just keep your head down and have a straight line approach is what basically kind of carried me through all of this.
That carried you through. What advice would you give to other younger entrepreneurs who are starting these tech companies today, and what are the things that they should do and not do?
The first question I think every entrepreneur have to ask themselves, that am I doing this, actually why? Why am I doing this? Am I doing this because I love the idea of being an entrepreneur and doing business? Do I love the idea that, look, this is how I'm going to get truly rich? Or I'm doing this because I believe in this problem and I want to solve this problem, and nobody can solve it better than I, because I so firmly believe, and my conviction is so strong, right?
I think that's the core of it, isn't it? And if you don't have that, what are you saying?
I would say,
don't do it.
Be prepared. The older you get, the less risk you're going to take, right? And my risk profile is I live on the edge, so I have a very high tolerance for risk. I think that, so if you one of the things I tell people is that, look, you have kids and they grow up in a very comfortable environment, and the reason you like yourself when you go look in the mirror is because the person you are, your character, your substantive, etc., and your value system. Now, for our kids, our schools are like 5-star hotels, and they're very luxurious and they're very well done, etc. So how do we inculcate in the next generation a sense of rigor and discipline? Because everything else can fall in. Maybe kids are smart, and you might be smart in one area or the other area. Not everything has to be, software programming. Not everything has to be, I got to be an engineer. There's so many things you can do in the world today. The question is, do they understand, do they have a value system that includes being like, hey, I have rigor and discipline in me. I respect people and I work hard to achieve what I want to achieve. And therefore, I compete against myself. I compete with myself. And for me, I look within and saying what I want to do, versus I don't look at James or Sandy and saying, what are they doing? No, they're doing what they feel is best.
What is my mission?
In the process, I carry people with me. I carry my society, my social tribe, humanity, planetary well-being, etc. And I think that's the question I constantly grapple with, is who is teaching that to our kids? Because I had to go through a very rough path to hone myself as an individual, to elevate my game or my life.
Yeah, you learned on the journey. But there's one thing I do want to go back to. You said this earlier. It is something you're extremely passionate about. I'm talking about entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And you're going to be the best at it. and you're going to commit, I would say, at least a decade or two of your life to make it happen. And this is one thing I deeply believe in, and I don't know what your opinion is. I'd love your take on it. I don't think it's like being an influencer on social media.
Oh, no.
This is a serious thing. It is your 24/7 job. You can't even do it as a moonlighting thing. You don't do a startup.
With no guarantee of success.
Exactly.
And no high
So
probability
there's
of
a
failure.
deep conviction.
Well, and Sandy, to your point though, like if we look at the people that are the very successful influencer, that took 6 years in the making.
Correct.
Every day building, editing by themselves. Like I look at people like Mr. Beast, right, who's now 23, and he was doing that.
That's anything. You're totally committed to it.
He was all in, like to the point, like I remember he went to college, he hated it, and so he moved in with his friends, but was like he went all in for $10,000 that he saved up and was just like producing, and he's like
All he was doing.
and for a sole year, and he like every day, and he moved, and he also, to your point about community, went to a house with other people that were just as convicted, and then when they grew up, they all ended up making like 1 million subscribers each because they were feeding off of each other, and like I think your community is just as important too.
But you agree with that one, right? That this is not a part-time thing. If you're going to be an entrepreneur.
You have to be all in, and that's that's the bad part of being an entrepreneur, because you're so all in.
Sucks you in.
Exactly, you start neglecting everything else, because this is your passion, not everybody else's passion.
So it becomes the 8 becomes the 4 and 20.
It becomes like that, and you forget, and then also you will endure the kind of stresses. Stresses come your way that you have never dealt with before, and guess what? Who do you take it out on? The people closest to you, because they will tolerate it. Others will not. Others will walk away.
Or sometimes all of us tend to take our nearest dearest for granted sometimes.
Exactly.
Happens to all of us.
Which is why well-being is important, because well-being centers you back and saying, this is my true frame of reference. Now let me put everything in perspective. Versus I dive so deep into pursuing my passion that I really am the most selfish person in the whole world then. I'm a narcissist as I'm concerned.
Point. Back to the Edifecs era. The 888, do you think it could have worked then if you had the awareness and were pursuing it? Would 8 hours have been enough?
Very good question. It would have not been 888. It would have been some model of that. I truly believe that if I'd worked only half as hard as I worked, I would have been twice as successful. And that goes for everything I've done in life. If I slowed down, I would have run faster. If I slowed down, I would have done better. And I mean professionally, financially, personally, any which way you look at it. I would have come out ahead if I slowed down. Now, slowing down, does the slowing down mean I sleep 6 hours, and I give 4 hours to myself and family and other things, and then the rest I'm working hard, and I only work 6 days a week or 5.5 days a week, whatever that is? You'll make better decisions. There's a better mind-body connection in terms of internalizing and thinking through stuff. Small decisions could have, I could give you umpteen number of examples where if I had just been more deliberate, slower and more mindful, I would have come out way ahead.
So this is interesting you bring this up. So at Zensar, we have this philosophy of think velocity. And we talk about the difference between speed and velocity. The speed is just going fast, right? Velocity is mindfully figuring out where you need to take direction, where you need to take input and change direction, right? And that's when you get to the destination faster. But you could go fast and just speed. So velocity and speed, that's the difference. And I think it's a very important message for everybody.
And that's what Sunny was bringing up earlier is intentionality about where you're putting your energy in your wellness, in your business. Like I think you even said it, like just surviving the one day. And that's why I asked the question, what did surviving mean? He's like, well, we got everyone together intentionally, and everyone then got on the same page of where we are today, where we need to go, how do we get there? Because if you just kept going through the motions, that's not intentional, right? Or about the social media, you were saying even like how you use social media. If you're intentional, it less manages you versus you managing it. If you were to start a new business today, how would you go about uncovering where you think you would start it? Because I know a lot of people are always like, I want to start a business. Where do I go?
If so for an entrepreneur to start a business, I would say that deliberate very heavily into number one, let's say, I was trying to say, I want to be an entrepreneur. I should ask why. Why do I want to be an entrepreneur?
Okay, so the first question is the why I want to be one.
And the why has many flavors. Like, why should I, why do I want to be an entrepreneur? Why, what's exciting me? What's driving me in that direction? Is it because I see other people, my friends are doing it? Is it because I see a problem and saying, my God, if only I can solve this problem, I'll be so much happier, others will be, and I can impact a lot of people? What is it that's driving you towards that? Is it money? Because saying, you know what, I want to get, financially this well off, and therefore the only way I can see over there is being an entrepreneur and hitting it big. Find out why do you want to do what you're doing.
Okay.
Right? And what is your motivation for driving you in that direction? And if you lose the shirt of the back, are you okay? If it's gut-wrenching, is it okay? If the storm continues for a while, is it okay?
Or if it totally fails, is that okay?
Is it okay?
Because you gave it a shot and it didn't work.
That's right. And do you have and most businesses fail because the people involved in driving the business have lost stamina. That means the opportunity sooner or later will come in front of you. Every time, no matter what, so long the business sustains, the opportunity will come. The question is, do you have the stamina to grab it? The awareness to understand, look at it, understand it, see it, grab it. And most companies will run out of steam because they don't have the ability, whether financially or otherwise, to latch onto an opportunity. So if you want to start a business, make sure you know why you want to do it. And if you want to solve a problem, why do you think you want to solve it? And why are you the right person to solve it?
Let's assume they understand the why. Okay, like why you want to go do it. And then let's assume you go to the next question is, people don't know what problem to solve. How would you help them say, like looking around them to start identifying what the problems are in their life?
It's almost like teaching, learning. I do not believe in the current education system of the world. I think it's, for lack of a better word, garbage. We paid too much money for what we learned and what schools and colleges teach.
They don't impart the right things.
Rigor, discipline, social value system, etc., comes out by this social engagement with kids jostling with each other, pushing each other, talking to each other, forming friendships and whatnot. And the vulnerabilities of the process also comes out.
It's a problem that you're already so passionate about solving that draws you in are where I found the best, because they already have it. Now, if you just want to be an entrepreneur, then I guess you keep looking and the right one presents itself. I don't know. I've never been on that path.
Question is, how do you identify a problem?
Yeah. So the way I was going was that when you want to teach kids and you want to make kids a joyful learner and therefore make them curious, right?
Curiosities, yeah.
You don't teach them. You facilitate that learning process. The same with an entrepreneur. No matter, I could have had many mentors around me and with Edifecs, etc. But in the end, in Edifecs, I always did what I believe was the right decision or the right thing to do. But I took everybody's input that I had to, but I made the decision. So for an entrepreneur, you have to facilitate the journey of the entrepreneur, not dictate or saying, okay, don't worry, if you're falling off this, I'll protect you. No. You can fall and you might just fall for good, where you might not recover. You have to let the entrepreneur, in a way, an entrepreneur by themselves have to make decisions and be decisive and those kind of things. But they should, if they are involved anybody else, like a teacher, like a mentor, it should be to facilitate the process of their growth and their journey, not giving them tools by which they just say, okay, you know what, I can rely upon you for this and I can rely as Sandy as my advisor for this. If you start looking at that and you start looking at your investors and your mentors and advisors as people that are going to come and bail you out, you will, sooner or later, you'll fail in business. You have to let the entrepreneur fail. If you're going to fail, let it fail. What's going to happen is there are only few decisions that you make that actually make you follow them. Most decisions can be course corrected so long you're agile, you have velocity, you're looking at stuff, stamina there, you're course correcting, you're failing early, etc. Most decisions can be reversed. You won't go too far off. But the question is, it's the entrepreneur's journey, not ours. It's the kid's journey, not the parent's journey. So let the kid take the journey, let the entrepreneur take the journey.
So I love your passion in this particular aspect of educating the future generation. What things would you like to see in the education system that would help facilitate this type of stuff?
I think it's totally orthogonal to what we do today. I would, if you look at the systems or the tools or the techniques espoused by or promoted by a Krishnamurti way of learning, an integral way of a Waldorf way of running, or some of the other methods, it should be, number one, immersive and experiential. That means that you must understand how the world works in that area, and you should learn that from the concept of how the world works. Right? Real life examples, things that you see around you. If you want to count, get a bunch of oranges, say, okay, I have oranges and apples and this and that. Okay, how can I learn subtraction and addition with all of these things? Experiential, immersive, concept-based, and let the kid think. You give them a problem and say, okay, how can we tackle this problem? What are ways to tackle this problem? There could be many ways to solve a problem. There's not a way. And let's not just rote everything and saying, let me just make sure that you have everything in your head. You can research things all the time. And how do you get the creative juices going? How do you get empathy going? Because at the end of the day,
those are more important education.
No matter what role you perform, you're an entrepreneur, guess what? You got to deal with people. You are a leader, well, you have other leads and you have other people in your team. You have to deal with other leaders. All of these things about compassion and empathy and creativity, communication, how do you build a relationship? All of these things are things that are critical and important in the process.
But I would then, so I'm going to push back a little bit because it all sounds great and I can totally agree with it because that's the educational background that I grew up in. But how do you fix a system that's supposed to be scalable for the whole country?
I think it's the same as healthcare, right? Healthcare has become a business, education is a business, right? And my take is that these two things cannot be business. They can be, there's no harm making money, there's no harm running a business, and the business has to be profitable. But the checks and balances and the regulations have to be such that the focus is in the healthcare system, the individual. How do I take care of you? For example, when you go, when you want to go see a doctor, if you're something, let's say you have a flu or something, and you want to see your doctor when you want to get a physical, try to see which appointment you get first. Right. And then when you get how much money they make. When you do physical, you can see how disinterested they are, how quickly they move. Yeah. And there's no way in half an hour I can do a physical and tell you about your health. There's no way I can get all the blood tests done. It won't work like that. Similarly, the learning side of things, right? It's the same thing is that what do we want the kid to be in terms of being themselves, growing up themselves, falling and getting up. If you want to do numbers, teach them how to do the budgeting in the house. If you want to do numbers, tell them how does the debt ceiling work in the US. Things that are real life. Oh my God, numbers can mean that. Oh, look at the sun and the temperature. And if this thing broke off and there's so much heat, teach them everything in relation to how the world works. And say, my God, I get it. I get temperature. I get numbers. I get, boiling points. I get, how do plants survive? How does emotions work? Right?
I'm agreeing with you on the curriculum side. But let's say we start with Seattle. And we need to fix that. Is that
how do we do it at scale?
Yeah. How
do we transform at scale?
Is that a combination of raising taxes to then give higher paying jobs to teachers?
Like at a system level?
Is that getting rid of the whole concept of, tenure, first in, first out? Because I know my sister-in-law, she was a teacher. She went to school. She had all these amazing ideas and she wanted to share it, but they were like, no. And when they needed to do budget cuts, she was the first one gone. Versus some of the older people that weren't invested in the kids.
Because she spoke out.
Yeah.
The only way it's almost like I believe when you believe that nothing will help and nothing can change, the world changes. I've always seen it happen. And my take is that there will come a point where somebody will come with a solution that they will launch, they'll launch some good products. People are going to start latching onto it. And then you will have what you call the Google of learning or the Microsoft of learning or the Apple of learning. Those companies will come about. And then the shift will happen saying, hold on, but why are we not doing it that way? Because it helps us in delivering our own curriculum, right? So right now the inertia in the healthcare system and learning is so high that it's almost impossible to do this. It's impossible.
What about the government? And what about us as communities? Because as you said earlier, it's not just a business. So if healthcare and education were more things that you would rely on your government for, what
I think every country, in our case, in our country, every state should have a well-being officer. End of story. That how do we care for the well-being? And well-being is not about 36-hour work weeks. It's nothing to do with that. Well-being saying how do we ensure the well-being of our citizens? How do we ensure the well-being of the next generation? And we're going to think like that, and we're going to start incorporating things like that, right? And if you start looking at everything from a well-being lens, you start looking at things very differently.
So I'm going to shift now to the RoundGlass era. We're talking about that. You started to define holistic well-being earlier. Give us your definition of it. And then what is going on in the RoundGlass venture? What is it about? I'd love to hear more about that.
So for me, RoundGlass is an expression and extension of me, right? It truly manifests me as to who I am. And I started RoundGlass not as a company. We're saying, hey, look, I'm going to create a company because I want to accumulate more wealth or, it's like I want to be more known or none of that. The reason was that I saw that humanity at large, are not being taken care of. They're falling off a cliff. And if you look at COVID, basically COVID said the emperor has no clothes. People did not know how to deal with life post-COVID. And I tell people my COVID was the best years of my life, or among the best years of my life, because literally there was no distraction, a lot of nature, a lot of time I could spend with people, right? And here I am saying, okay, you know what? The world is different. How can I enjoy this different world?
And nature was healing too. Like you talk about, like
healing.
Like they talked about there were dolphins in the channels of Venice because there was no more cruise ships going through.
Air become cleaner, soil becoming cleaner.
We had certain flowers in our yard which had never blossomed because they needed certain bees to carry the pollen across, and we got it for the first time during COVID. I'm like, what the hell happened? And the number of bees we saw was so many more.
That led to the genesis of RoundGlass in terms of how do we transform and impact humanity and showing them how to live through holistic well-being. In the process, we kind of cleaned up our act in terms of our thinking and mature our framework. So what started as, how do we show people how to live through holistic well-being or well-being, which became holistic well-being, which we define 8 pillars for. We said, holistic well-being is physical well-being, holistic well-being is emotional well-being, and is social well-being, and is spiritual well-being if you're so inclined. It is financial and professional well-being, and it's community well-being for the humanity at large, society at large, and it's planetary well-being. So we said there are 8 pillars of well-being, but they have to be abstracted so that we can show people that if you have to live through holistic well-being. So Sandy, you might say, you know what, I want to focus on relationships or cultivate healthy habits or healthy eating habits, or I want to deal better with workplace stress, or lifting my team, whatever those things that you have to deal in life, professionally or personally. You look at them from a lens of saying, if I put a holistic well-being lens on it, how will I solve it? That means if I use anything from meditation or yoga or food or music or reflection or gratitude or sleep, whatever those tools I have, how can I use all of those tools in order to focus on a certain area in my life? And as I graduate, it's like you do yoga, you can start year 1, and in year 2 you become a bit better, and maybe in year 3 you become a bit of an intermediate, and after 5, 6, 7 years you become a bit more advanced. And so you graduate yourself becomes the way you live. It's the ultimate in behavior change, how to live well. And so that's what RoundGlass is all about, is showing people how to live well and taking the life issues that you face on a day-to-day basis, sometimes different things. You're parenting a teenager, for example. We all know if you have kids and you have teenager kids, it's a different animal altogether.
Very humbling.
Very humbling, right? And so all these things that we deal in life, even a funny example like constipation, for heaven's sakes, how do you travel well? These are day-to-day issues. That's okay. How do you brush your teeth, for example? I have 6 different dentists tell me 6 different ways to brush my teeth. Now, if I, in well-being, am a bit confused, what about the billions of people over there who don't have access to 6 different dentists? Maybe they're better off, I don't know, right? And so being a source where we can show people how to do that. And the intent was, how do we democratize holistic well-being for the world, right? Because my take is very simple. People who live a life of holistic well-being don't go into schools and shoot other kids. People who live a life of holistic well-being don't say, why is my oil under your sand? People live a life of holistic well-being, not saying, I'm going to become successful in life by making sure you're unsuccessful. No, we can both be successful. There's plenty. So all of these things, if you look at any problems, I can tie the whole solution, the silver bullet solution to any problem in the world to holistic well-being and living it. It has to be taught in schools, and it should be graduatingly more complex it's like going to grade 6 and then 7th and 8th. It should be available in colleges. Every college, every school should be having a well-being counselor or a lead. Every country should have a well-being minister. This is the most germane part. I believe that RoundGlass today is the most relevant company in the world because the need of the hour and the epidemic of our times is the modern lifestyle, is we don't know how to live.
So let's go into that for the audience that's unfamiliar with RoundGlass. What is RoundGlass's product or service?
So RoundGlass is 2 parts. One is living. It's showing people how to live through holistic well-being, which we do through an app. And in the app, you can say, okay, I want to reduce, let's say, I want to deal with stress in a workplace. I want to cultivate good spousal relationships. We'll show you how you can use different modalities in different areas of holistic well-being and combine all of them to get started in a very small incremental steps. And then over time, graduate you to more complex stuff, whether it's meditation and more complex meditation, food and more awareness of food, etc.
And you're tailoring it for each person, right?
The more we get to know you, the more we'll start tailoring content. If you're more inclined towards music or meditation or yoga or reflection or gratitude or journaling, whatever that is, we'll give you all the different kinds of tools and content, and we see which one you gravitate towards. We'll keep exposing you more, and the one that's more, efficient for you, the more that has more efficacy for you, we'll say, okay, we give you more of that. And for democratizing, we said we'll always have a free version of the product for the world. Highly useful, everybody can use it. And because we have to be sustainable as a company, we'll have a premium version also that is for high-end users. But the idea is that through living, show people how to live through the app, right? And achieve scales, etc. Give them access to the best practitioners in the world. Vet it out, right? If you want to vet out yoga teachers, how do we do that? Or meditation teachers, how do we do that? And ensure that those teachers are being honest and they're promoting and nurturing individuals in the right way with those modalities of holistic well-being. So we become that platform, that barometer, that filter that people saying, I trust. With RoundGlass, welcome home. This is a place you can trust. Whatever we say, we provide you, we give access to is fully vetted out, and we do it ourselves. The second part of RoundGlass is giving. We're saying my take is very simple, that every company in the world must take ownership of a social problem or a part of a social problem, or more than one depending on your size. And you can take other people as partners and say, okay, I'm going to combine my strength with 5 other companies. Together, we're going to solve this. Whatever they're passionate about, their employees are passionate about, etc. We decided to take 3 big problems, but they're right now all in India. One is in the area of documenting and chronicling the biodiversity of India, called RoundGlass Sustain. And this is a giving back to India. India is one of the most biodiverse countries in the world. I said, let's document everything in an entertaining, educative manner with impact and human stories, etc. Guess what? In our 4th year, it has become a destination site where people are saying, here's the kinds of things that wildlife conservation, impact stories, climate, etc. is happening in India. And so people are becoming more aware, and they're proud because we are showcasing to them things they never thought existed in India with wildlife and species and stuff like that. We are doing things around sports, where we have opened up a elite academy for what we call soccer here, but football there, that focus on the holistic development of the child, of the athlete. And so producing a great football team or a field hockey team or a tennis team is a byproduct of focusing on athletes who are highly talented in their area, but nurturing them is saying, don't worry about life, we'll get you purpose with your first job.
By the way, what sport was your father in? You mentioned that
My
earlier.
father was an international field hockey coach and player of great repute, and he never forgets that. He reminds me of that. And early on when he was young, and I was young, he'll never tell me anything about his career. His friends did. So that's how I knew how good he was. And now, of course, he'll brag a little bit here and there just to keep me humble.
Good one.
And then the work we're doing in Punjab, where we are making all the 12,000 villages eco-sustainable. Now, each of these are very big problems, very big initiatives, but we have given each of them 20 years as phase 1. We're going to put our own money in. In some areas, we're going to raise money because they are foundation-centric stuff. But all of this is about giving back, whether it's well-being or giving.
Talk a little bit more about the Punjab problem, and especially we're talking about well-being, but for the youth there, the drug situation. Could you educate
hold on before we go into that, again, because not our own audience is brown like you. What is Punjab? Where is Punjab?
And what's the problem?
Punjab is one of the 28 states in India, a population of about 30 million people, with 70% of that living in villages. And there are about 12,571 villages in the state of Punjab, which is up in the north, right? It's about a 45-minute flight from Delhi, which is the capital of India. So we said, how do we introduce eco-sustainability in India with a regional focus so that we can show really good impact? And because Punjab was my backyard, I said, I have a lot more understanding of this place and space. I come from here, and we're going to make this impact, and we're going to open source the entire thing. Our business models, our financial models, our playbooks, our frameworks, you can come embed yourself, learn from us, and implement the same wherever you are. I have to say, RoundGlass Giving, which is the 3 big initiatives, has been the most satisfying part of my life over the last few years. I drive my team pretty hard, but when I sit back and I look at what we have done, I'm so proud of this team. I'm so proud of the work we have done. And it's become a grassroots movement. Sustain has become sports like that. It was so much. I'll give you a small example. So we were playing in Punjab, in the Punjab League. And we had very few Punjabi players. All our players were from rest of India, but from Punjab.
Nice.
And there was a lot of complaints. What are you doing? You're a club in Punjab. There's no Punjabi kids, etc. I said, look, if there are no Punjabi kids, that means that's how bad things are. But guess what we're doing? We are opening up development and grassroots centers to cultivate those kids. So year 2, 3, 4, 5, now we have kids coming from Punjab, so that the local kids get purposed and they get something. They get a new set of role models, etc. But we didn't just buckle down to them and say, okay, just because you're getting angry about, we being a local club. We said, no, we are going to do it right, and we'll let those kids
naturally emerge.
Naturally emerge. And so all the work we have done in all the three initiatives, I would say that they're all 20-year initiatives. They're very big goals. Each of them is like a mega foundation by itself or a mega initiative by itself. To take 12,000 villages and make them eco-sustainable, that means the soil is clean, water is clean, air is clean, which is really, really all very bad. Or financial sustainability, so nobody leaves a village, and you won't do that for 12,000 villages. Well,
that's a lot.
That's a lot, right? But
I love that impact.
But my take is, as a company, if we are enabling holistic well-being for the world, democratizing holistic well-being, that planetary well-being, RoundGlass Sustain, or societal well-being, RoundGlass Sports and Foundation, are ways of giving back and enabling the well-being of certain segments of the society.
What I bring it back to you. What triggered I gotta go do scalability, accessibility in Punjab, 12,000 villages. Why not just 1,000? Like what was that for you?
In terms of taking the whole problem?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, I love that. Is that your entrepreneur? Be like, I'm going to go after the whole pie.
Yeah, so I have a problem in life is that when I get into something, actually two problems in life. I have many problems in life, but let me focus on two. One is when I get into something and I commit myself to it, I have a very...
Superpower.
I have a very difficult time getting away from it. If I'm committed, I'm committed. It's like you have to really bury me, 8 feet under for me to give it up.
That's the 888 over there.
Yeah, that's also 8, not 6. You notice?
That's right. That's right. Things become very big very quickly for me, right? Scale, right? And the reason is because it is scalable, and there's the only way to do it, and we can do it. And I've given the time. So between commitment to an initiative and making sure that it's given the proper time, the overall the initiatives I think have shaped up really, really well now. As much as we don't market ourselves really well, we don't showcase it really, really well. But if you really look at it, there is.
But why did you think you owed the Punjab? Was it a sense of owing or a sense of wanting? Because you're an American citizen, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And you decided to go help out this group. So what?
The way it happened was I was in India from 2014 to 2019 for a good 5 years. And that's when the genesis of RoundGlass took place. And the problems I saw was when I was in India, because that's why I started pivoting.
In Punjab, he was in that area.
And so I started focusing on those areas. Now, impact that we'll have will be global. So, for example, when we do the villages in Punjab and we can save the villages in Punjab, which is fast becoming a desert, and we are successful in that, which we are so far.
By the way, for the audience, could you give the people the history on how rich Punjab was and how much the land produced for it and what has happened to it? It would be good for people to know.
Absolutely.
Why.
So Punjab was one of the topmost states in India in terms of how they were doing from a financial investment perspective and output and this kind of stuff. And now it's become one of the bottommost states in India. A lot of drug problem in the youth, a lot of disenfranchised youth, and they are not purposed and whatnot. The education not giving them any jobs. Hardly any investment is coming in Punjab. So there's a lot of things that Punjab needs to grapple with. The treasury is very weak, etc. So when I was there and I saw all these problems and being an entrepreneur, I said I can do something about it. And I said, okay, let's start doing it. And the very small dreams became big dreams. The very small problems or big problems started disappearing. And suddenly where we had pushback from the bureaucrats and politicians saying, but why is Sunny here? What's his agenda? Right? And say, why are you doing it? I said, because I can. I'm here. I see
that was kind of where I was alluding to. Is like what it was inspiring.
I just want to. I'm just going to do it
because I can.
And I love that.
Yeah,
is we should be just accepting more of that versus questioning someone's.
That's a good point.
Motive.
In fact, you're very right, because most people who make it in life have some streak that comes out of paying forward.
Yeah.
But when they start paying forward, the world also has this thing about questioning
it's some
them.
Rich guy who's got some like Napoleonic complex,
doing it for fame or for whatever else,
and not just take it as a gift.
That's something that I think. Do you feel that?
Because I believe that to whom much is given, a lot more is expected. So if nature gives you X, then you have to give 100X back. Full stop. Because if my also take is that my conscience has to be very clean. Otherwise, it just be when payback happens, it's going to be either me or my kids or whatever. Even if I come scot-free, it's going to impact my kids or whatever. So why even invite that? And my mindset is such that I believe that this is the moral obligation of all of us to
community.
Give back. And by the way, each one of us
can pay forward.
It can be time. It can be, a little bit from your income. It can be just getting involved. It can give you ideas. Everybody can be involved.
You don't have to have the $1 billion windfall to do it.
It could be, even to his point, is something as small as a gesture as going to your barista and ask him how their day is, because
It's a great starting point.
Because the well-being is also the mental well-being in the social fabric that we're talking about. And
that's just being human, right?
Showing up and being present. Yeah.
Did you celebrate life today? Did you have authentic communication, conversations with were you authentic? Were you honest? Were you that kind of stuff? Do you have meaningful relationship? Did you further any of them? Like talking to the barista and saying, hey, you know what? Blah, blah, blah. The barista wants to know your name. Do you want to know your barista's name? Saying, hey, hi, Sandy. So good to see you. I'm going to have my usual today, right? Versus, this is my order. Here's my credit card. Sandy will enjoy hearing Sandy, oh, you know my name. You address it my name. The next is slow down. Have you slowed down today, or are you just in a rush, busy doing busy work? Humility. Did you just portray your ego all around, or did you saying there was some humility in me because, I knew the other person was wrong, but I didn't have to push it up because I didn't have to prove myself to anything.
But when my authentic and humility clash.
He needs to finish.
No, but that's what I just did. They clash, the authentic and humility.
I don't think so. No,
they do for me.
You're
and I'm happy to talk about that too, but eventually it will not. Because in authenticity, we appreciate the differences. So if Sandy is boisterous and full of energy, we'll say, you know what, I love the confidence dude. Like every time I see him, it's like, wow, I see the real guy. I see the real deal. He's quirky, but his quirkiness is attractive.
Oh, you're talking about me. Thank you.
Yeah. And then be in service of.
Be serving others. Is that what you said?
Yeah. How can you be in service of others, right?
All right.
And the last one is ask your question, who am I? Those 7 things, and there's 7 questions, and all you have to do is just, you can get up in the morning and do it. You can get before you go to bed and saying, this is my reflection time. I ask myself the 7 questions. Am I furthering myself in any one of those 7? Right?
What do you predict for the future in any area that you want to predict it for?
So I'm cautiously optimistic, and I'll tell you why. I'm optimistic because I believe in people. I believe in human beings, and I believe in the next generation. Cautious because I don't see much things trending well.
Dictatorships aren't going to.
So if I see how the world is shaping up with a lot of things, it's like
it's scary. It's very scary. And to his point, I read a crazy Wall Street Journal or NPR. One of them came out with a society like looking at what are priorities in America. Community back in like the 1990s was 67%. Everyone voted community is super important. And now it's less than 30% of people think community is important.
And it's deteriorating, right?
Drastically. And that's why people no longer see people as humans in the United States, because they don't talk to each other and do this and say, okay, he's brown, whatever, that doesn't mean anything. Turns out, actually, we both care about people, right? But now it's more like, I have no need to understanding my fellow person. The only thing everyone agreed on that trended up was the desire to make more money, which
that's just totally opposite.
Very, very sad. I'll put that post, but it was eye-opening to see like the precipitous drop. And it's evident, like you said, if there is no community,
in our behavior,
if children aren't educated on the importance of it, that's why people, unfortunately, shoot others, because there's no thought necessarily about that.
Tell us about the
cautiously optimistic about the future.
Yeah, so because I believe in humanity, I believe in people, and I believe in the next generation, but cautiously because a lot of things are trending wrong. If you look at the planetary health, trending wrong. If you look at societal, community health, how many people are suffering just from lack of mental resilience, right? Mental duress.
Suicide rate, teen suicide is higher than ever amongst young girls and young boys. Yeah.
Body image issues. You look at all of these things because of the environment you live in, the lifestyle.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, if a kid who's, let's say, Asian or black or something like that is saying, I wish I was white. There's a problem right there, right? So when you look at a person, do you see a color? Do you see a ethnicity? Or do you saying,
I see a human being?
I see what she talks about is like, wow, what can you have lived a life. I want to know your life because there's things in your life that I can absolutely influence me in a very positive way. Let me take that out versus, this is your color, or this is how you look, or this is how you dress, and saying, what does person carry with them in their life that makes them, right? And so you start respecting each other that way, differently.
So,
cautiously optimistic.
Cautiously optimistic.
Which is good.
Okay. So don't invest in the stock market, he said. Kidding. I'm kidding. That's not what he said.
It's a different conversation altogether.
Sandy, you want to do a rapid fire?
Yes, let's do that. So
set it off.
Just going to do like 10-second responses. I'm going to give you 2 choices. Teleportation or mind reading?
Teleportation. I love traveling.
Okay. Favorite desert?
Favorite desert will be, my state of Punjab is becoming one, or going to Botswana, which is one, but it's a delta. But there are plenty famous deserts.
Favorite restaurant?
Favorite restaurant? No, not too many restaurants have impressed me. The thing is that the way I eat, seasonal, organic, local cooking techniques, my food is very different. And so when I go to a restaurant, it's too rich for me. So the food has to be very tempered.
Okay. What's your go-to physical exercise?
Yoga.
Okay. Last amazing book you read?
I don't read.
What is the one thing most people don't know about you but should?
My level of commitment to things, and how persevering I am about that commitments. And I never give up, and I never leave people behind. So that comes all together as a package.
Awesome. That is the superpower, I guess. And the last one, what do you consider to be your best accomplishment or the biggest?
I've never looked at my life as accomplishments. I could say, the birth of my children. I think probably the best thing in my life. Wonderful kids. Seeing my dad turn 90 plus.
That's awesome.
And him being alive and spending time together. But I don't feel that I've accomplished. Well, yes, I've been successful, in different ways. But I don't think of that as accomplishments. My accomplishment is when India makes it to the World Cup in football. My accomplishment will be when 12,000 villagers saying, you know what, thank you.
We're clean.
You have made us sustainable and self-sufficient. I will say, you know what, I feel I've done something. Because so far I've taken. I have not given anything. So accomplishment is about what have I done for you.
So let me ask you this, because we love letting our guests get opportunities to plug things that they're working on. Do you have anything you're working on that you want people to be aware of? Are you guys hiring at your companies? If so, what roles?
Couple of things. One is I think everybody in the world should become a seeker of well-being. Get in a journey of well-being and incorporate whatever suits your personality and your life. Weave that in. Whether it's reflection, walking, socialization, calling your parents every week, or spending more time with your family, whatever it is. Incorporate and become a seeker of well-being. Learn, be curious, and incorporate it. It's the best thing you'll ever do in your life. As regarding I'm concerned, RoundGlass is concerned, our intent is we have a living app which will always have a free, very useful app that everybody in the world can use. So we want to democratize holistic well-being. So download the RoundGlass Living app, use it, and by the way,
is it just RoundGlass Living?
RoundGlass Living on the App Store or Google Store, whatever you want.
Do they need to use a coupon code Sunny for a discount?
It is, it's free.
I love that.
Outside of me keep giving them money to use it, which will be disingenuous from a well-being perspective. Use the app, incorporate, and by the way, write to me and saying, Sunny, why are you not putting these kind of things? Because they can help us.
How can they reach you?
They can reach me at my email ID, sunny@roundglass.com.
All right, we'll put it in the show notes for people.
And so reaching me is not a problem through directly social media, whatever. And the last thing I'll say is figure out how you can give back to the world in a small way, even if it's an hour a week. Just figure out what can you do for somebody that is not related to you, not for your own self, not for your own company, but somebody who has nothing to do with you. Saying, I want to do something for somebody who has nothing to do with me, is doing nothing for me, but I want to do for something for themselves. And that could be, your friend's child who might say, you know what, I can give some nuggets of wisdom, or, it could be any number of things, but something that's for yourself, not for yourself.